Welcome to Le Podcast de Philippe. Today, we're diving into the world of DARPA.
DARPA.
You know, the agency behind so many of the incredible technologies we use today.
Right.
We'll explore their latest projects, like this massive breakthrough they had with quantum computing, and we'll even touch on some of the theories and speculations surrounding the agency.
Yeah, they're kind of secretive.
They are.
Bound to happen.
But before we get started, make sure to subscribe to our channel on YouTube for more insightful content.
Yeah, hit that button.
All right, so let's jump right in. What exactly is DARPA?
Well, DARPA stands for the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency.
Okay.
And it's a U.S. agency that focuses on developing these cutting-edge technologies, primarily for national security.
I see.
But what's interesting is that it's this relatively small agency, only about 210 employees.
That's it.
I know, right? But they have a massive budget, close to $3 billion.
Wow.
And they're not interested in mass production or anything like that. Their goal is breakthroughs.
Breakthroughs.
Yeah, technologies with the potential to really change things up.
Change things up.
Both for the military and for us regular folks.
That's really interesting because when you look back at their history, they've already had a ton of success in that area.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, the early internet GPS navigation, even the groundwork for self-driving cars, all came from DARPA.
Exactly. It's amazing what they've achieved. And what's even more exciting is their current projects are just as ambitious.
I was going to say, so what are they working on now?
Well, one that's generating a lot of buzz is their development of the first logic circuit for qubits, which is a key component of quantum computers.
Okay, now I have to admit, I'm not a quantum physicist.
Most of us aren't.
So can you break down why this is such a big deal?
Sure. So imagine a coin spinning in the air. It's not heads or tails until it lands, right?
Right.
Well, a qubit is kind of like that. It can be both 0 and 1 at the same time.
Yeah.
That's called superposition.
Super.
Yeah. And this allows quantum computers to explore many possibilities all at once, giving them the potential to perform calculations that would take classical computers millions of years in just a fraction of the time.
Whoa, so are we talking about computers that can instantly crack any code, design life-saving drugs, or even predict the future?
Well, predicting the future might be a stretch, at least for now.
Okay.
But the potential applications are massive.
Yeah.
I mean, Google has already demonstrated a quantum chip that can solve a problem in minutes that would take a classical supercomputer an unfathomable amount of time.
That's insane.
Think about what that means for scientific research. For example, modeling complex molecules for drug discovery or materials. Science could be completely revolutionized.
It's mind-boggling.
It really is.
But DARPA isn't just focused on quantum computing, right?
Oh, no. They have their fingers in a lot of different pies.
So what other intriguing projects are they working on?
Well, in robotics and AI, for instance, they're exploring things like robots that can pilot aircraft and even using swarm intelligence for complex tasks.
Swarm intelligence. So like a bunch of robots working together like ants.
Precisely. And get this, they even have a project trying to map insect brains to design even more advanced AI systems.
Hold on. Are we talking about creating robot armies controlled by a hive mind?
Well, that's certainly a thought-provoking concept.
It is.
The goal is to understand how these simple organisms can achieve such complex collective behavior.
Right.
Whether that leads to robot armies or something completely different, it's too early to say. But it highlights how DARPA is looking to nature for inspiration in some pretty unconventional ways.
It really makes you wonder what the implications of such technology could be, especially in a military context.
Absolutely. These are definitely questions we need to be asking as these technologies develop. But let's shift gears for a second and talk about energy and the environment.
All right, all this talk about robots makes me wonder if they'll need batteries, or if DARPA is working on something even more radical for powering the future.
Well, one project they're exploring is wireless energy networks.
Wireless energy networks.
Imagine high-altitude drones beaming power down to the ground using lasers.
So instead of power lines everywhere, we'd have these laser beams shooting energy from the sky.
It sounds pretty futuristic, right?
It does sound like something straight out of a science fiction movie.
But it could be a game changer, especially for providing power to remote areas or disaster zones.
Oh.
And speaking of futuristic, let's talk about what DARPA is doing in biotechnology and neuroscience.
Okay, this should be interesting. What are they up to in that realm?
They've got this program called TNT. It's looking at ways to stimulate nerves to enhance learning.
So like a brain boost to learn things faster. That sounds kind of crazy. What are the downsides?
Well, the long-term effects of that kind of stimulation aren't fully understood,
Right.
It raises some ethical questions about cognitive enhancement and if it would create an uneven playing field.
Like a real-life limitless scenario.
Exactly. And they're also researching ways to modify animals genetically.
Like CRISPR, the technology we hear about.
Yeah, similar techniques. They're looking into using it to control disease vectors like mosquitoes
Oops.
or even create animals with specific capabilities.
So that brings up a whole other set of ethical dilemmas. What happens when these modified creatures interact with the natural ecosystem? I mean, are we playing God a bit too much?
You're hitting on some key concerns there. The potential benefits are huge, but the risks are equally significant. I think we need to have some serious discussions about the implications of these technologies before they become widespread.
Absolutely. Now let's move on to defense and security. I imagine DARPA has some pretty intense projects in that area.
Oh, they do. They're developing hypersonic weapons that could travel across the Pacific Ocean in minutes.
That's incredibly fast. What are the strategic implications of that kind of speed?
Well, it changes the entire landscape of warfare. Current defense systems wouldn't be able to keep up. It raises some serious questions about global stability.
It's a bit unsettling to think about. What else are they working on in terms of weaponry?
They've got projects focused on sniper scopes equipped with lasers for pinpoint accuracy. And then there's Plan X, which aims to create a virtual 3D world for cybersecurity.
A virtual world for cybersecurity. That sounds fascinating.
The idea is to be able to simulate cyber attacks and defenses in a safe, controlled environment. It's a pretty revolutionary approach to staying ahead of cyber threats.
Like a training ground for the digital battlefield.
Exactly. All of these projects, as diverse as they seem, have a common thread. They're all about pushing the boundaries of technology to maintain national security.
But with this level of advanced research, it's got to raise some eyebrows and some conspiracy theories, right?
Oh, of course. DARPA's secretive nature and the groundbreaking work they do, it inevitably leads to speculation.
We've all heard whispers about things like mind control and climate modification, even forced transhumanism. Are any of these fears actually grounded in reality?
It's important to remember that these are just theories, not facts. While DARPA is pushing the limits they operate within legal and ethical boundaries.
But some of their projects do sound like they're straight out of science fiction. How can we be sure they're not overstepping those boundaries?
Transparency is key. Public discourse and oversight are essential to make sure these technologies are developed responsibly.
That's a good point. So how does DARPA even decide which projects to pursue? It's not like they just throw darts at a board full of crazy ideas.
They have a pretty rigorous selection process. They identify strategic areas, and then they solicit proposals from universities, labs, companies. The criteria are pretty strict. The project must offer a potentially disruptive solution, even if the risk of failure is high.
So they're looking for those high-risk, high-reward ideas that could revolutionize entire fields.
Exactly. They're willing to invest in projects that might seem outlandish or impossible because the potential payoffs could be transformative.
That explains why they're behind so many game-changing innovations. But this unconventional approach also fuels the public's imagination, doesn't it?
Definitely. When you're working on cutting-edge tech in secrecy, it's bound to spark speculation and conspiracy theories.
So let's dive into some of those theories. Mind control, for example. Is there any truth to the idea that DARPA is developing technologies to manipulate people's thoughts and actions?
Well, it's a popular theme in science fiction, but there's no credible evidence to suggest that DARPA is actually engaged in mind control research. While they have explored brain-computer interfaces and neural stimulation, these technologies are a far cry from controlling someone's thoughts.
That's reassuring to hear. What about climate modification? There are claims that DARPA is secretly developing weather weapons.
Again, those claims lack evidence. While DARPA has funded research into geoengineering to mitigate climate change, the idea that they're weaponizing weather is pure speculation.
Important to separate fact from fiction. What about forced transhumanism? Some believe DARPA is working on turning humans into cyborgs against their will.
DARPA is investing in biomedical research to enhance soldier capabilities, heal injuries, develop advanced prosthetics. But there's no indication of any programs aimed at forcibly transforming humans into cyborgs. Ethical considerations would likely prevent that kind of scenario.
So while DARPA is pushing boundaries, they're not operating in a completely unchecked manner.
That's right. They have ethical guidelines and are subject to government oversight. But with their level of influence and the potential impact of their work, it's crucial to stay vigilant and engaged in discussions about the implications of their research.
That's an important message to remember as we continue exploring the fascinating and sometimes unsettling world of DARPA. We've covered a lot of ground, talking about these incredible DARPA projects.
Yeah.
But I feel like we sort of skimmed over their big quantum computing breakthrough.
True. We should probably circle back to that.
Yeah, I mean, developing the first logic circuit for qubits. That's a big deal, right?
Absolutely. It's like laying the foundation for building these practical quantum computers, which could revolutionize so many things.
Okay, so quantum computer's powerful.
Yeah.
But can you give me a real example? What would this revolution actually look like?
All right, so imagine a world where drug discovery just explodes because we can simulate molecular interactions with incredible accuracy. Or material science, where we're designing new materials with properties that we haven't even dreamt of yet.
Sounds pretty sci-fi.
It does, but these are just a couple of examples of how quantum computing could change scientific research as we know it.
So is this something that we'll actually see in our lifetime? Or is it way off in the future?
It's closer than you think. The challenges are definitely there, building those stable qubits, controlling them, precisely developing the software.
Right.
But researchers are making real progress. DARPA's breakthrough with that logic circuit, that's a huge step towards making quantum computers more practical.
It's exciting to think about the possibilities.
Yeah.
But I also have to ask, are there any potential downsides to this kind of power? We are talking about DARPA, after all.
Right.
An agency with a focus on national security.
Mhm.
So could quantum computing be used for, less than benevolent purposes?
That's a really important question. Any technology this powerful has the potential for misuse. I mean, quantum computers could be used to break encryption, maybe compromise sensitive data, or even create new forms of cyber warfare.
That's a little scary.
It is. It's crucial that as this technology keeps developing, we're having these discussions about ethical guidelines and responsible use.
For sure, for sure. So I got to ask, what other crazy things do you think DARPA's cooking up?
I wish I knew. But knowing them, they're probably working on some truly mind-blowing stuff. They've always been ahead of the curve, and they'll likely continue to shape the future of technology in some pretty big ways.
Well, it's been a fascinating journey into the world of DARPA, their ambitious projects and the, incredible and sometimes kind of unnerving possibilities they're uncovering.
It really makes you think.
It does. Thanks for joining me today to explore DARPA.
It's been a pleasure.
And to all our listeners out there, thanks for tuning in to Le Podcast de Philippe. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube for more deep dives into the world of technology and innovation.